All right, we're back for round two. We got with us Chris Meroff, author of the new book, Align. And let me just stop right here and just say, if you have not listened to our last podcast with Chris, you need to stop and go listen to that. There are fundamental principles there for every single leader that you should really take to heart and check out before you carry this on. Because this, what we're going to do in a very short period of time is we're going to get to the heart of actually Chris's heart for the church today, and where his new book and his leadership philosophy and mentality really has a lot to speak into the pain that a lot of us are experiencing. So welcome back, Chris. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Let's go right into the whole state of the church today. Like,
yeah.
what are your thoughts on the state of our church in our culture right now in America?
I think one of the things that it has me, and I'll speak to it from my perspective, like my interaction with the church. It's very personal to me. I grew up in the church.
Yeah.
I grew up with a family that was very dedicated to church. We were at church at least 3 times a week. We were serving in a lot of different capacities. And so I have a lot of background with the church. And where I find myself today is this concept that, man, we're all doing church in so many different ways. And it makes me wonder what would happen if we all for a moment figured out what was the purpose for me as the church. Mm-hmm. Stop thinking about big church or little church, but me as the church. I'm the body. I'm the bride. Mm-hmm. And so what is my purpose to be on this earth? And if I think about how I can connect to that purpose as it relates to glorifying my God, reflecting his glory in everything that we do, that we think, that we say, how much impact could I have? Let's say that I lived out of singularity for a moment in how I conduct myself and what I talk about in how I interact with people. I think that that would bring clarity for people as to who I am and the God I represent. Mm-hmm. Now take that times millions. Mm-hmm. And the diversity of what we all bring to the table, it really waters down every aspect of our ultimate purpose to be on this planet. And so kind of my relationship with the church right now is complicated because I really want desperately for us to unite around a singular purpose.
Oh my gosh, that should be a Facebook status, right? Forget the relationship stuff. What is your relationship with the church? Because I'm going to put complicated too. I'm changing my status.
That's right.
That's so right. Because I think, we even call this the Church Misfit podcast because although we have a deep love for Jesus, when we look at how we often structure and run things, there's a lot to be desired. Mm-hmm. And we know we're falling short in a lot of ways. And there's this angst, there's this tension that we don't know how to address. Guys like, Chris enter the picture in church, and he has this great spiritual gift of business administration, of creativity, of innovation, but those things aren't valued typically in a normal church setting. So what do you do with that kind of tension? And I think one of the things that people need to know about you is that you have done a brilliant job of wrestling with that tension, but then just saying, you know what? Like you're describing, I'm part of the church everywhere I go. You have created a church-like atmosphere within your own for-profit organization and business. You said, I've got leadership influence, and with that leverage, I'm going to love people really, really well. I'm going to take my gifts and what I'm good at, and I'm going to apply them to the business world.
Absolutely, yeah. It's, and I often wonder, hey, is this something that I should be stepping into? This is kind of on the fringe of what business is supposed to do. I have this mentality every time I think about, hey, I want to open up our business meeting in a word of prayer. I'm thinking, well, is this something I should be doing? Can I be doing it? What are the rules around that? And Mordecai, he keeps whispering in my ear, Chris, for such a time as this. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter why you have influence, what got you to this point, but for such a time as this, are you going to be faithful in this moment to step through? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Talk to us about your latest endeavor, 22 Consulting. Like, what is this about?
Yeah, it goes back to that concept of how do we, for any church ministry, understand a singular purpose. When I think of most churches, it's full of incredibly, especially church leadership, incredibly passionate people. Mm-hmm. I mean, nobody goes in to take terrible pay to work with really hard people outside of their passion for Christ.
Right.
It's a tough spot to be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reality is, why are so many passionate people not able to accomplish amazing things? Mm-hmm. Well, it's because their passion is not aligned. Mm-hmm. It's close, but they don't talk about the things that need to be talked about in order to get perfect alignment.
So where do you start? Right? If we're all in part of those church cultures in some way, where we're frustrated with some form of leadership at the church, and we're like, they don't get it. You know, people are not wanting to volunteer here. People are not wanting to serve here. People are not wanting to stay here. And there's frustration all around because there's a desire in every church to want to grow your church, but that's not happening in America. We're in a consolidation mode is how I see it. Like stocks consolidate in their price. What's happening is like churches with poor leadership are quickly dying, and Christians are flocking to whatever remaining healthy churches are left. It gives us a sense of false growth, but at the same time, the numbers are declining. Church is not growing in America. No. It's rapidly declining. So what if we're going to if I'm a church leader today, and I'm going to say, you know what, I'm willing to hit the reset button and wipe away everything else I was ever taught about leadership in church, where would I start? What would I need to do? Well, how would I need to realign my own thinking?
Yeah, and I think that first step is why it doesn't happen. You know, I don't think you can align around a concept that you wouldn't be willing to lose your entire church over. Nothing else will be worth it. There won't be enough of you to push forward that purpose if you're not already willing to give it all away.
Wow. That's uncomfortable. That's uncomfortable.
And so without that, what you already spoke to is you have declining numbers.
Yeah.
I don't know of any other way to evaluate our business growth other than to see if it's actually growing. I know that seems simple, but we're really unwilling to do that in the church. We're unwilling to look at those declining numbers and say, let's try something different. Well, with a business, we try new stuff all the time. If I'm not growing, that seems that seems more common sense. Yeah. But in the church world, for whatever reason, we want to keep doing it the way that we've been doing it for the last 100 years. We let our worldview of traditions or experiences dictate the next thing we do. We don't let our beliefs dictate the next thing that we do.
That's good. So right now my mother-in-law is living with us. We talk about that a lot, like how often we worship tradition, or we worship, or we worship the way we do church versus actually like worshiping and responding to Jesus. And that's one of our heartbeats here at Catalyst, is just for innovation. We know it's a timeless message, but we want to have a timely delivery. And so how do we take this to the next generation? How do we continue church forward? And I love that the frustrations are coming from guys within the church, but it hasn't like made you quit. It's led you to fullness. Like you push in, you're trying to think, how do I do this more? How do I align with what God has called me to do more? And so it's props.
Yeah.
And it's, but that's inside the church. Outside the church, they're looking at 300,000 plus denominations and the disalignment of the church and all these different viewpoints. And you just go on Facebook and you can see it. They're trying to figure this out too.
Yeah. So let's say I'm a ministry leader, I'm in a church, and I'm open-handed with this thing. I'm like, Lord, this is your ministry. I'm willing to be the bad guy. I'm willing to do something that's going to completely fail. I just want to reach people. You know, if you have a leader that's truly in a humble heart, doesn't care about their name recognition or anything, what should I do to connect with our culture today? What would you say to them?
I think you have to really identify this concept of the next person. So I love that Jesus, he praised this concept, and it's one that honestly, it troubles me. But he prays in John, he says, hey, I know God, he's talking to his Father in heaven, and he says, if there's no perfect unity with these people, and he uses the word perfect unity, the world won't see me. And if they don't see me, they can't see you. So I go back to, what's the next thing you do? You got to find perfect unity with at least one other human being and start the church, the real church. That scares me, because perfect unity means you have to talk about things that may cause discord. You may have to figure out this path toward perfect unity. But he's clear. The world can't see me unless you have perfect unity.
So you have that one person,
Yeah.
all right? You found that person that you are completely synced with. We've got unity. You know, where does this lead? What are my next steps? What should I be aiming at?
Yeah,
as a leader?
You're gonna be perfectly unified around purpose.
Okay.
And this purpose, you can find all throughout Scripture different aspects of our call. I go back to this concept, okay, well, perfect unity around a purpose of glorifying my God. Well, now you have like 1,000 different ways that you can glorify him, right?
Right.
But if glorifying him is the thing that we're going to have perfect unity on, it allows for a lot of different methodologies. That's not what we want to say. We have to consolidate down to one methodology, but it does start the conversation around this body, this group. We can't do 1,000 things. We can only do maybe 4 things. So it's really becoming laser focused on that purpose so that you can have perfect unity around a few things, not 1,000 things.
Yeah, I love it. So and I know you're pressed for time, so I want to just I want to reiterate again, if you're listening to this one and you didn't go back and hear the first episode with Chris, go back and listen to that. You need to go to the website, alignleadthrive.com. You need to purchase a copy of the book Align, and you need to go through it with that reset button in mind. I'm going to hit the reset button, and I'm going to create a blank slate, and I'm going to soak in chapter by chapter these 4 steps that I should take to totally really hone in on the culture and the people and the resources, the tasks, everything of where I'm going and why it matters. I'm going to live that out. I'm going to look at that in much detail. And if you get to that point, you need to reach out to Chris and his team at Alignment Leadership, because every situation, every church situation is different. I love how you said it's not about honing it down to one methodology. This is how you should do church. It's more about if we're a group of diverse people coming together, right? What are we aligning around, and how are we going to walk it out? And you may think you're doing that already, but once you get into this book, you'll realize that none of us really are doing it well. But there is a path forward, and I think there's a generation of, honestly, young and old Christians that are hungry to be led in this manner. So, man, thanks for like your time again. This is amazing.
Absolutely.
I
Thanks,
know we're going to do this some more. So, man, get a copy of the book. Check out Chris and his team. It's going to be well worth your time, man.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.